All right, guys, we're back. Another episode of Talking Preps. Before we begin, a little bit of a somber note. North Iredale had a young man pass away in a car accident. Want to say, give our prayers to him and his family. That was tragic, very sad. They have a game this week. Kid's name is Jacob Huffman. He's killed in an auto accident in Alexander County. Also, the wife of Wake Forest head coach Reggie Lucas was shot accidentally. And he put out a statement yesterday or last night, just thanking everybody for their prayers, and we wish his wife the best and the team, because everybody's affected by something like that. So we wish them the best. And with that, we're going to hit the button, and we'll come back on the other side, start the show. Gary, Chambers is off to his best start in 5 years. What do you think about the Cougars under Captain Munley?
I think they have a lot to be excited about. There's always apprehension when you got a new coach coming in, establishing a new culture, especially when, that previous culture, you had high expectations, because less than a decade ago, they were always in the state championship. I think for me, I was curious to see how an NFL player with a lot of NFL staff members would handle high school. I know it in previous cases where you had a heavy high school presence. The NFL guys like to show kids how much they know instead of what kids can do. And haven't seen Chambers yet, but I'm excited for them because it looks like that NFL staff knows what they're doing with kids. That's the only thing I've always wondered about is, guys who've played at the highest level, are they too complicated for high school kids? They put a lot of ifs in their statements. If he does this, you do that. If he does this, you do that. And then kids end up paralysis by analysis. So happy for Chambers. But the schedule gets tougher.
Absolutely. They play Harding Friday, then they have Palisades in 2 weeks, which is going to be a really big game.
Yeah, I think you'll get an accurate measurement of how good Chambers is when they play Palisades.
Okay. Chris, up in the Wake County area, is Green Hope for real? The Falcons are 2-0. They haven't given up a point.
I don't know. Let's pump the brakes on this one right here. Going into week 3, I've still got Green Hope ranked 26th of 32 8A teams. So I still think they've got a ways to go. But, or not so fast, like Lee Corso says. Mitch Johnson is doing a great job. He's a top-notch coach. He's 100% making some real gains up there in the Cary area. I love the offensive system that he's using. He calls it the power raid instead of just the air raid. They run a lot of power concepts in with some of their passing stuff. And he's got a great offensive coordinator and a guy named B.J. Harrington. So I do like what the Falcons have going on. I think it's absolutely possible that this Green Hope could win 4 to 6 games, but let's just not jump the gun. Their quarterback, Ryder Schwartzman, he's a good guy. Running back, Adarius Bailey. This team is light years better, though, than where they were a couple years ago. So let's keep checking these guys out.
All right, let's go down to Fayetteville. You saw a big game in Fayetteville last week. Had 84 points scored between Hoggett and Britt, 44-40 Hoggett. Matthew Boring, the quarterback, threw for 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. I remember, Chris, once upon a time when Fayetteville was the center of the North Carolina High School Football Universe. This is on its way back.
Well, I remember that too. In fact, I was right in the middle of it coaching over there, Douglas Bird, and the history that that program had with Coach Bob Paroli, Russell Stone, a lot of state championship appearances, and think about 71st. With the exception, and I did a little bit of digging, with the exception of the COVID season, 71st has won at least 9 or more games in 12 of like the last 13 years or something like that, including a bunch of 14 and 15 win seasons. Duran McLaren, he's built a monster of a program that he took over. He went to school there too and took over from a guy named Bob Paroli, and other guys work there, Bobby Poss, Ron Massey. 71st has always done good. Terry Sanford, you look back at it, past 13 to 14 years, Terry Sanford has not won less than 70% of their games. Cape Fear's won about 70% of their games. Jack Britt's won a ton of games, and Southview. But I'll say this, the demographics have kind of shifted around in that city, with the military base kind of growing out. And I think one of the reasons why Fayetteville is not necessarily the power that it's been is because of just the way the military base is and the way some of the demographics are, is that some of the students have pushed outward. And you look at some of the places that have grown up around Fayetteville that are starting to get much better in football. Think about Pinecrest. There's a huge special forces contingent out there around the Pinecrest, Union Pines area, which is definitely on the rise. Overhill, St. Paul's, Hope County, those areas have grown, and I think that's why Fayetteville's kind of gotten swallowed up. And another thing just to think about is that there's no true, other than Jack Britt, there's no real 8A teams or big 4AA teams in the old days in Fayetteville. They're all kind of now 7A and 6A and even some 5As, and I think that's just because that talent's kind of pushed out a little bit.
Okay. Gary, is Palisades, which I mentioned earlier, are they ready to become a bona fide regional power?
Yes, they are. I watched them at the Huff Jamboree, and I was real impressed, especially with their defense. Mm-hmm. But, being a former coach, I look at things that, most fans don't look at. I look at how the staff is made up and how the staff interacts with the players between series and the adjustments they make from series to series. And I was impressed with the Palisades staff. A lot of people can prepare, Sunday through Thursday, with coaches meetings and practice and everything. But Friday night, that preparation is ongoing, because you're going to see something, or your kids are going to see something that they didn't expect to see. And the mark of a good staff is adjusting, and I think they do that. I think, they look organized on the sideline. I think Coach Simmons does a great job with them. So yeah, they're up and coming. You got to have not long term, but you need 3 or 4 years of steady success. And I think this is the 4th year they're open.
Yes.
And they're getting better. And another thing I look at is the size. They look the part. They have the same kind of size as the other good programs around town, and that's important.
All right, cool. Well, look, before we talk about the big games coming up this week, we're going to talk about the top players last week. I'm going to throw it to Chris and the guys for Players of the Week.
Thanks, Langston, for sending it over. Let's talk about those guys who balled out last week and who got the call week 2 of the 2025 high school football season here, Talking Preps. Hey, let's start up there in Wake County, Middle Creek High School, just outside of Apex. Jaden Spencer, and their big 45-14 victory over Willow Springs. Spencer ran the ball 17 times, 126 yards, and a touchdown. He caught 3 passes for another 23. Coach Griner, I know you like guys that can run and catch and the versatile. What do you see about this guy?
The one thing I like about him the most, and I was checking him out earlier, is he stays square. He doesn't take big hits, but he stays square, so he's able to cut both ways multiple times. You could tell that this guy is really good veteran, small space quickness. This is what you're looking for in a running back, and then finishes strong when he needs to.
Coach Hales, you made a living with guys that ran downhill. What would you do with a guy like this?
Yeah, the thing too, like Sam's saying, everything he does, like every time he finishes, he's going towards the goal line. You remember the Walter Payton book years ago about, be hard to kill or don't die easy. That's him, man. It looks like he's going to squeeze every yard, every foot out of every run, and he's going to take somebody with him. And that stuff's contagious, man. That feeds into your O-line. That feeds into your defense. I mean, you ride a kid like that.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hey, let's go up here to the 336 Greensboro, Grimsley High School. We don't have a video of him, but I'm going to post a picture of him right here. Brody Lowe, he is the quarterback at Grimsley, filling in for the injured Faison Brandon, who's out with a thumb injury. I'm going to get to that in a second. But in a 31-17 victory over West Forsyth, he completed 13 of 21 passes, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns to help the nationally ranked Whirlies in that game. And, oh, by the way, Friday was just his 5th day as a high school student, period. Coach Hales, you had to deal with a thumb injury with Riley Ferguson back in the day. How devastating, or how much time can we expect the healing for that to be for Faison?
Yeah, that's the thing, thumb injuries, because there's just so many different little bones down there in the hand. Like if it's this bone, it's a season. If it's this bone, it's 2 weeks. And it's just, I just hope the best for the kid. But, when you look at the stats here, I mean, throwing it 21 times with the kid who's been in high school for 5 days, that speaks to the amount of confidence, the coach has, not just in Brody, but like in the rest of the team, that like, I know the O-line's going to take care of this guy. I know the receivers are going to take care of him. So, that's just a big shot in the arm. And now you've got this number 2 quarterback that's getting all this valuable experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I saw Brody throw when they were in the scrimmage versus Mooresville. He looked very polished. He's not a very small freshman. He's actually, a thicker quarterback. He's a bigger guy. So I think that his physicality is going to be fine, even though he's only been in high school for 5 days. Very poised. I think the game came to him in the second half, and he was to do a lot of things once the game slowed down. But what a magnificent crowd that he was able to play under in his first game starting. So kudos to them, and Grimsley keeps on rolling.
All right, guys. Let's move over here to the Western Piedmont, to Lincoln County. We'll wait for the screen to come up. And here we go. Gray Ponder, West Lincoln High School, in their 72-49. That's a basketball score almost. But in that 72-49 victory over Lincoln Charter, Ponder, who, by the way, is a coach's son, ran the ball 26 times for 236 yards, 7 touchdowns. West Lincoln had 613 yards rushing as a team, tied for 24th most in NCHSAA history. Ponder, who had 1 catch and 6 tackles, also had 6 successful 2-point conversion runs and a total 54 points. By the way, that is the second most points ever scored in an NCHSAA game by a single player, trailing only Savon Tutt. They called him King Tut. I've got videos of that guy. He was pretty impressive, of Pamlico County, who had 60 back in 2019. His 7 touchdowns are a Lincoln County record and ties for the 3rd most ever by an NCHSAA player. Guys, I don't know about y'all, but when you start talking about state association records, that's big time. Sam, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I love this old school style of offense. Who says you can't score a lot of points when you're doing some of this? And the one thing I like is that he's got to give a lot of credit to the angles of the offensive line and able to open things up, but the creativity of the illusions on offense. I mean, I'd have to watch film a little bit more, but it's looking more like either a wing tee scenario or it could be, an option scenario. But both of them have some illusion built into it, and he's able to finish. Those small creases become big gaps for him when he's running 30, 40 yards down the field. But you can just tell the angles and the creativity is pretty spectacular. And anytime you're messing with records like we're talking about in state association, is pretty big time.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Like these numbers, like just as I was starting to read them the other day, I was thinking 7 touchdowns, 6 2-point conversions. Like I'm trying to do the math, figure out how many points the kid scored. I'm like, I can't even keep up with it, and I'm not even watching the game. But like for him to do that, like you kind of got to wonder, like how many hot dogs did he sell during the game? Where did he park the buses when he drove the team there? And like what time is he doing announcements at school on Monday? Because I mean that's literally the kid's doing everything. And like I said, he's not just doing it on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, see a clip right here, the kid's making tackles and everything else. And I do too, Sam. I love this old school style of football, and especially seeing a lot of these kids play both ways. And that's just, man, because we grew up, the way I grew up anyway, we were playing both ways, and it's so much fun. But, man, shout out to this kid, Gray Ponder, because that's a huge night, and he may not see this because he may be sleeping until Wednesday.
I'm sure he was tired after that one.
I was confused, like he was showing defensive clip. I'm like, man, this guy had all this production on offense, and he still was cleaning up tackles.
Yeah, West Lincoln has put some ballers out. Remember a couple of years ago, we had that guy that did just about everything in our Mr. Football conversation. So kudos to them. Let's move just a little bit further west up into Henderson County. Hendersonville High School. Jerron Ward, he's another son of the coach, Kieran Ward. Jerron completed 14 of 17 passes for 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 39-6 victory over rival West Henderson, who West Henderson, by the way, they're a pretty doggone good team. Jerron also ran for another touchdown. Coach Hales, I know you like quarterbacks. I'm going to let you start with this one.
Yeah, man, that number right there, 14 to 17, just to me, that is just brutally efficient. You're doing what you want to do. To me, everything's probably working on time and in the way that you wanted it to. But it's just, you look at the kid here, he's pulling the ball down, he's making good decisions, even as his protection's breaking down. And, I think a lot of that too, like you said, he's the son of a coach. And I'm sure he's been taught how to play the position. Because we talk to kids all the time. You either are a quarterback or you play quarterback. Like you remember growing up, Chris, we'd play cops and robbers. Like I wasn't a cop or a robber, but you would play that.
Oh,
well, you have a kid that you are a quarterback or you play quarterback. This kid's a quarterback. You can see that all over the place.
Yeah, huge decision maker. You could tell the first clip when he was running around 5 different times. I bet you his father was about to lose his mind on that one when he still completed the ball. But you could tell, like, in space, making good decisions, pre-snaps. You could just tell as well that when he's throwing the ball down the field, he's got a nice touch to him. He relies on his legs a good bit to get out of trouble. Obviously Dad's going to want him to throw on time and be on time most of the time. But you could tell this guy's coach's son, enjoys the game. They have long conversations probably on the weekend, and Dad's trying to correct some things. But great mission, great job. And, we'll get back to the drawing board on Sunday when they're watching film together again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, hey, we're going to finish it up with a big one, and I mean a big one. And, I love talking about these skill guys. They get all the press clippings, but every now and then you need a dog out there to really get things done in the trenches. So we're going to bring on Mark Franco. There you see he's on the screen right with us here. Providence Day High School in their 38-10 victory over Rollsville. Franco didn't allow a sack. He had 6 pancake blocks facing multiple D1 recruits. Franco is a 6'1", 300-pounder who has committed to Denison. Welcome to the show, Mark. Tell us about that game. Tell us, give us a good answer what it was like to go up against those dogs from Rollsville.
Hey guys, thank you for the opportunity first off, but it was a great team win. The offensive line, how we move, we're all a big unit, and I had a little bit to do with it, but as a squad, we had great communication, and go get some guys up in Roseville is a great opportunity. Nothing but respect for them. Totally awesome opportunity. We're just really focused on getting back to the state championship and winning, and it makes it really easy to win a game when we make it about us and not the other people. When you play for the guy next to you, it just makes it really easy to want to go and ball out.
I'll tell you one thing. The play speaks for itself. It's fantastic. But let's talk about the hair. I'm a guy that likes a good offensive line hairdo. And that thing is serious. Can we get a little side turn, man? Is that like a real mullet going on? What do we got going on here?
Wow.
Get the drop on that.
My mom hates it. My mom really hates it.
Mom, you do not let him cut that. That is like guaranteed 5 pancake blocks a game with that hairdo.
Hey, man, as a child of the 80s, I salute you, young man, because that is a wonderful 80s mullet right there.
That thing is the truth. Like, he gets game player of the week every time just because of the hairdo.
Just remember, I had one of those then. I have one of these now.
I don't know what I got, so we ain't talking about that. But
well, hey, Mark, tell us what kind of attitude it takes to play in the trenches there at Providence Day.
My offensive line coach, Coach Jalen Hill, he really instills the value of playing to the whistle, never letting the quarterback get hit, always picking up your teammates, and playing 100% every play. There's no such thing as playoff. We are just we're just a bunch of fat guys blocking for the skills. We want them to score touchdowns. We want Zaid, my quarterback. We want him to stay clean as possible, no injuries. But we really have the big instillment. We block the sled. We drive the sled for 10 minutes every day. Our whole instillment is to just put guys in the dirt.
All right.
Mark,
All
is
right.
there
Hey,
any?
before I let you go, I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
let you go without asking you about the game this week. I know y'all got a big one against Charlotte Catholic. They shocked the city last week, beating Charlotte Christian. That was pretty impressive. What's your thoughts on playing the Big Red Machine?
I mean, we played Catholic last year, and their stadium, it's definitely the loudest stadium I've ever played in. I'll totally admit that. Catholic, they're a great team. Great, I know the head coach. All respect to them, but we just worry about us, and the job takes care of itself. If we just do the little things right and worry about the guy next to you, I think we'll be totally fine.
Mark, is there anything you guys do as an offensive line, like a weekly thing, like go out to get dinner or, do anything like that?
Yes, sir. So we have Waffle House Wednesdays. My center, his father, Trent Cherry, Nick Cherry, he came from Canton. We go to Waffle House every Wednesday. And I mean, overall, we're always in meetings together. We always sit together at lunch. I mean, we're always hanging out. I mean, but Waffle House Wednesday is definitely a big thing we all look forward to.
See, now I don't know if you knew this, but Mark, back in 2002, 2003, I was actually the offensive line coach at Providence Day. And I don't know if things are different then, but those guys,
wow.
Yeah, those guys used to take me out to PF Chang's on Wednesday nights. So I don't know what y'all doing now. Y'all got to step that back up, though.
I mean, I would love some PF Chang's. I can really go for a Waffle House waffle. At 8 o'clock every night. I mean, I could totally go for it.
That's a little more O-lineman-ish, I think.
No doubt.
That's why.
Yes,
That's why I asked the question, what kind of attitude it takes to be an offensive lineman, because offensive linemen, it's not for the faint of heart. These skill guys, they're sometimes, they can be prima donnas, but it takes a guy who puts his hand in his dirt. It just takes a different mentality to move a man from point A to point B against his will.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. I mean, I love my skill positions. They love us. I mean, like I said, I feel like as an offensive lineman, it instills me that's just like you're kind of in the shadow of things, but you really only get called out when you mess up, and I feel like that's a great thing for life. It just like I like to move in silence and just do my job. I mean, a good pat on the back is all I really need, But I definitely that's really how our group is. We pick each other up, and we're just one big family.
That's awesome, man.
All right, man. Hey, that is great. Like I said, you balled out. You got the call. And here you are, one of the Talking Preps players of the week for week 2. So congratulations and best of luck the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Have a great day, y'all.
Every week on Thursday and Saturday morning, get the latest in high school news from around the region and the Charlotte Observer's free newsletter, Talking Preps, the newsletter. Make sure you sign up now. So those are the players of the week, and now it's time for Cam's Big Three. But before we launch, we had a big bell game, and Chris is going to pinch hit for Cam, who's got a little something in the throat. But Chris, we had a big bell game this week. A.L. Brown won again. Is this not the rivalry it used to be?
Well, I think it's still a great rivalry. In fact, it's the longest running rivalry in the history of North Carolina. And there you see some of the photos from years past. I mean, anyone, and I'm going to say anybody who has not been to this game should at least one time go up to either Kannapolis at Memorial Stadium or Bailey Stadium at Concord and just enjoy the vibes of this game. I know they don't put 11 or 12,000 in there like they used to, but I saw some of the photos from Friday night's game, and there was still 5,000 people. And 5,000 people in this day and age for a Friday night football game is still a pretty good crowd. It might have been a little bit more than 5,000. I don't know, maybe 6. But, it's just great high school football. I'm still going to go on record as saying that bell that they play for, the championship trophy that they go back and forth and, the schools can paint up the way they want to paint it. I think that's the coolest thing that we do in North Carolina in high school football. Yes, I know that they kind of took the idea from Duke and Carolina and their bell, but just everything around it. And look at some of the coaches right there, some of the people that have played in this game, whether it's the Nick Maddoxes of the world or Andre Allisons or, Jamie Scotts or, any of those guys. Insert hundreds and hundreds of names, the bigger than life coaches like E.Z. Smith and Bruce Harden. This is just a great rivalry. Is it what it was? No, probably not. But who's to say Concord might get their back on that same tier, and it gets rejuvenated again.
All right, Chris. Well, that's the history, but what are the top teams in Cabarrus County this season? Is A.L. Brown one of them?
Well, I think definitely Kannapolis A.L. Brown is part of that mix. I think that they are a good-looking team. Quarterback A.J. Settles is really kind of settling into his role as a junior quarterback coming off of that 10-0 JV run last year. Looked really good in that Concord game. I like him a lot. But, J.M. Robinson, I'm still going to go and say I know they got the beat pretty bad by Myers Park. But
Myers Park is a really good football team we discovered on Friday night.
I think Robinson is still probably the most talented team. They went head-to-head with Kannapolis. I think that would be a Donnybrook of a game. There's still some other talented teams in Cabarrus County. I'll keep an eye on Donnie Kiefer's Central Cabarrus team. I think they're kind of lurking in the weeds. I know that they lost to Northwest Cabarrus, Eric Mormon, which also is another really good one. But I think if I had to put it in order, I'd have to go Robinson, Kannapolis, then probably Northwest and Central.
All right. Well, Cam is not here, but we do have his big three ready to go. And Chris, you're going to break that down for us. All right.
I'm going to do my best to imitate the real guru of North Carolina high school football, Cam, and look at some of these big games that he picked for us to talk about this week. Obviously, Weddington going over to Monroe. Weddington uncharacteristically coming off of a loss last week. Can they rebound going in there to take on Coach Johnny Sal and those Monroe Red Hawks? I think it'll be a good game. I do like Weddington in this one right here. I still think that Monroe's a young team. I was on their sideline during the Cleveland County Jamboree, had a chance to look at the guys, look at the talent, the size, everything. I think Weddington's just going to pull away from them. I just think that, man for man, they're a much bigger, deeper program than where Monroe's at. Moving on down to kind of staying in the Union County area, Marvin Ridge going over to the Ballantyne area to take on, I guess that's at home, I guess. But either way, that's almost like, playing the Hatfields and McCoys right across the creek from one another. You can almost throw a rock between those two schools. So anyway, I had a chance. I've seen both these teams during the preseason. Both of them are kind of young. I do like AK. Typically AK is a big team. I think they've got a lot more athleticism this year than they typically do. Marvin Ridge is a little bit young, but I think that's going to be a great crowd. Going to be a lot of people there that know each other, so it's going to be a really good vibe for some high school football. And then finally, we just talked about Northwest Cabarrus and the top teams in Cabarrus County. They're going to be hosting Ashbrook, and I've seen Ashbrook. Ashbrook is probably to maybe the first, second, third. I don't know. Put them in one of them orders. Top three teams in 6A. Ashbrook is a really good-looking team. They don't have a lot of deficiencies on that team. I think that they are rock solid from the skill players to the line to the coaches. Darius James does a great job. But looking at Northwest Cabarrus, Coach Eric Mormon, he does a great job too. I just don't think they got the same dogs necessarily that Ashbrook has. They're going to be looking at an uphill climb, but who knows? That's why you play the game on Friday nights.
I had two questions, Gary. Ashbrook, a lot of people talking about how we have 8 classes, right? Ashbrook is one of those teams that really has a legitimate chance to win the state championship. I think because we split the classes. Is it good for teams like that, or do you just don't like going to 8 classes?
Yeah, because it creates more interest. You don't want a situation where you got good teams all in the region, but they know, okay, when I play a Charlotte team, I got no chance.
Yeah.
I have nothing to play for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in that sense, having 8, and basically we had 8. 10 years ago, big 4A, little 4A, and big 3A, etc., that type of thing. It creates more opportunity. It also creates more wealth for the high school association. So that's a good consequence of going to 8 levels of play.
Yeah, and Coach Hales, were you surprised that Myers Park went to Weddington? First regular season loss Weddington's had in 2 years on Friday night.
I guess how you could say, I was a little bit surprised. I know Coach James over there has been, building that thing back up over at Myers Park, and it's like they just got their big signature win. And anytime you're trying to, really establish that foothold with your own program, like you need wins like that to be able to take down Weddington. Like it doesn't get much better than that for those guys. So no, I'm not surprised that, got to see them play last week as they were playing out, on the field of Memorial before we went out there. So, bunch of big, talented, athletic kids over there and some good coaches. So, yeah, I'm surprised, but again, it's a win that they had to have, and it's good to see them get it.
Absolutely.
What's also big about that is it is showing Myers Park what stability in a coaching staff will do for a program. Myers Park, they went several years changing coaches every year, and you just don't have any stability in a program when you change coaches every year.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I think you even saw it at Myers Park there for a long time. I mean, people talk about, Myers Park's been this great program. Well, like when I got to Charlotte, they were changing coaches pretty frequently. And, I think when Coach Chadwick got there and really started to, Gary, like you're talking about, put down roots, that you really started to see that thing, blossom. And, now you have Coach James, those guys kind of, picking up where he left off.
All right. Well, we're going to jump out. We're going to get to Chris's big thing in a second. But before I go, I want to ask everybody to sign up for our Talking Preps newsletter. It's free. It comes out Thursdays and Saturdays. Saturday morning, you get all the Charlotte Observer coverage delivered right to your inbox. To sign up, just click that link on the screen, or you go to the website, scroll down to the bottom, and sign up for the Talking Preps newsletter. All right, Chris, get your vocals warmed up. It's about your time. Oh, you know what, Chris? Hold on. I forgot. Before I can let you go, we talked about Scott Chadwick just a second ago. Got his 200th win Friday night. They beat Southern Nash 49-14. Quarterback Aiden Smalls, tailback rather. Aiden Smalls, 11 carries, 152 yards, 3 touchdowns. Take it away. What do you think about Coach Chadwick getting his 200th? Then we'll talk about your games.
Yeah, you just mentioned some of the guys I was going to mention for that Clayton team. But yeah, congratulations, Coach Scott Chadwick. Coach Hales just mentioned, the run he had at Myers Park, winning 10, 11, 12 games a year during that 6 or 7 year stretch. He was there in South Park, and at Marvin Ridge before that. Coach Chadwick's done a great job, and he's got a great career. Started as a head coach all the way back in like 1997, 1998. Won a 4A, the elite level state championship in Maryland, like his second year ever coaching as a young 20-something-year-old head coach. So Coach Chadwick's been doing it at a high level for a long time. I went off and worked at the college level for a small amount of time. But he's always found a way to get it done, and congrats to him.
All right. Well, tell us about your big games this week. Oh, and there's Clayton in your big games.
Yeah, we do have Clayton there. The first thing I want to talk about is that big East Forsyth at Grimsley game. That is a game, these two teams have been playing each other year in and year out. And it just always seems to go back and forth. I know that Grimsley has kind of seen this big resurgence of a program. Coach Darrell Brown, first class, defending state champions. We saw him a couple weeks ago down here in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium. Faison Brandon does have the thumb injury. We've talked about that. You got a freshman filling in. But man for man, you look at that Grimsley team, and I just don't see any holes there. I mean, that is one complete looking team. They just look good. They've got impeccable coaches. They just look the part. They look a lot like some of those teams that Coach Hales and Coach Newsom coached at Butler for many years. Just can take it to the house on just about any play. But on the flip side, hey, not so fast. I'm going to kind of tip it to Lee Corso. We had him last week with game day. Todd Willard, he's an institution. And by the way, since we just talked about Chadwick's 200th win, Todd Willard's going for 200 wins Friday night in this game against Grimsley. And I know he would love to pick up win 200 in that game, so we'll see. So that's a big storyline right there. I don't think East Forsyth is quite as talented as Grimsley, but they're not far off. They're a really good team. We've seen them win state championships here in recent years as well. But hey, talking about the Central, let's move it up to the West. Robbinsville at Mountain Heritage. Robbinsville I think they're going to be in the 1A state championship game. They are a really good program. They did have a new coach this year in Lucas Ford take over for the legend and D. Walsh. And you go up there, and I love going up to Robbinsville, Big Oak Stadium, one of the best places in the state. If they're going to travel a little bit further east to one of my other favorite stadiums up there in the pit, as they like to call it up there, Mountain Heritage High School, and take on the Cougars, who have been surging. You're gonna notice they're gonna take a bullet up to near the top of the rankings. They are doing a great job. They've had 2 incredible wins back to back. They've just got it going on. I love the environment of football up there in Western North Carolina, especially now. I'm even considering going up to that game, just to kind of support that community, especially all the aftermath of Hurricane Helene last year. Burnsville is one of the towns that was hit the most. So I think that would be a great game to go to. If for some reason your favorite team ain't playing, or you just want to venture out and see some good football, I think this would be an opportunity to see 2 unique teams. The way they run the ball, Heritage runs that shotgun wing T, that shotgun T, I guess is what they call it. It's going to be some good football up there. And it's not that far of a drive from Charlotte. I think you can beat a Mountain Heritage High School from uptown Charlotte in like about maybe 2 hours. So it's not that far of a ride. But hey, let's talk about this big one here at the bottom. I had a chance to see Hoggard at Jack Britt Friday night, and boy, they look good. We mentioned Matthew Boring, the quarterback. He can sling it. He spins it as well as anybody I've seen. Got a lot of poise. And that team is big. Hoggard is one of those big, physical, meaty teams that I think can do a lot of good things. Now, they are a little injured. Their center went down with a little bit of an ankle injury. It's not season-ending or anything like that, but I do think that Hoggard's injuries could be a little bit of a hamstring kind of going into this game against Clayton, because Clayton has proven players at every position. Clayton has very few period. In my opinion, especially at the defensive back, they've got a great secondary. You mentioned a second ago, Langston quarterback Aiden Smalls. He's a deep threat guy. He's a guy that can pass for 200 and rush for 200 on any given night. Okay. Great-looking young man. But it's that defense that I like at Clayton, that defense with them dogs. They got the linebacker and Jordan Ham. That secondary is loaded. They got A.J. Cremel. They got Tayshawn Walker. They got Daniel Lovelace Davis. They got Malachi Burt. That Coach Chadwick defense is what really gets after you, and that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on, because you know what they say, and Coach Hills will agree with me, defense wins championships, and I think Clayton's right now.
It does. Okay, well, that's the big 3 statewide. Cam's not here, but he's still on the street, so let's see who Cam talked to this week.
All right, this is Cam on the streets here with Angel from Garinger High School. Jordan or LeBron?
LeBron.
Oh, man, that ain't the right. I know Langston likes that answer. Peanut butter, creamy or chunky?
Chunky.
Kendrick Lamar or Drake?
It depends on the mood.
Okay. Favorite NFL team?
Panthers, guys, man.
For sure.
I think Cam ran out of questions this week.
I think Cam's
that Jordan LeBron question is not fair for these kids. They've never seen Jordan. They think it's a shoe brand and not a basketball player. They are completely clueless in the Jordan LeBron debate.
Hey, one thing I wanted to throw in, we were talking about Coach Chadwick a minute ago, and obviously congrats to Coach, but fun fact, and the kind of stuff you only find out here on Talking Preps, back around 2019, 2020, right before COVID, we talk about coaches trying to supplement our income.
Yeah.
I got into umpiring like 12 and 13U baseball games. And there was a baseball game I worked out in Union County where Chadwick was behind the plate. Me and Joe Evans were out umpiring the bases that day. Wow. So those guys got me umpiring baseball, but those guys have been doing it for years.
Small world. Mm-hmm. Small world. Well, on the we're gonna talk about the Mecklenburg County games of the week. I had Audrey Kelly at Marvin Ridge up there, but Cam had topped me on that one. So we're gonna go right to Butler at Irmo. Coach, you want to play Coach Brand down there in Irmo. His quarterback's in Virginia Tech now. That might help you.
Yeah, definitely glad that to see AJ's out of there and just in time for me. But no, it's so cool to get down and to coach against Aaron again, because our careers really, like, our paths are really, really similar. Like, kind of became head coaches around the same time. We're assistant coaches there in the early 2000s and that Butler Independence rivalry and that. So no, turning on the film, gosh, they're such a good team. I mean, great size, fast as could be, fantastic athletes. And, big thing with us, though, Butler, is we got to get off to a better start. Super proud of the kids that, we both games so far this year, we had to come back from a halftime deficit. The good news is we came back from a halftime deficit. And it's really fun to watch these kids realize, like, hey, we're pretty tough kids. Like, hey, we're going to bring a lot of fight to the battle. Like, as coaches, we know that, but for the kids to be able to kind of discover that on their own is really a cool part. And we're going to need every bit of that this week. Like I said, I mean, we're going down there. We're probably going to be a little bit outgunned in terms of size and depth in that. So we just got to continue to make improvements and stop doing the things that have kind of been holding us back in the first half here the last couple of weeks.
Well, while you got your vocal cords on up, I want you to talk about your buddy down the street. Christian is coming to play Independence. Both teams coming off a loss. Christian upset by Catholic, Independence shut out by Huff. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those guys were expecting, a little bit different result, this past week.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously rivalry game with, Catholic and Christian kind of going back at it. I know DJ and those guys expected to have a better showing Friday night, but the thing about both of those programs is they have great coaches and great coaching staffs.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for them to improve, because I'm sure they're going to be able to find a lot of mistakes, and you really have a captive audience now. Sometimes it's better to take an L early in the season and let a team realize, hey, there's a lot of stuff we have to fix. Like, we just can't get by on talent alone. So, no, knowing those coaching staffs, I'm sure you're going to see a big bounce back this week.
Chris, he said it's important to learn from your mistakes, but how difficult would it be to go 1-2 if you're a team like Christian or Independence thinking about contending for a state championship?
Well, I think that one of these teams will be 1-2, and I still think both of these teams will contend for their state championship in their relative classes.
Mm-hmm.
Independence, I think more than anything, the big loss 35-0 this week to Huff is just an indication of how strong that Huff team is. I don't in any way look at it as a detriment or just that DJ or anybody at Indy did something bad. I just think that it's a compliment to Coach Sean Baker and everybody at Huff. I mean, Huff is a true juggernaut right now. I think this game comes down to the quarterback injury and the running back situation with Rule at Charlotte Christian. If they're back at full song and, are healthy, then yeah, I think this is a heck of a ball game. But if for some reason those two guys are still out, I don't know the injury situation following the loss to Catholic. And hey, you know what? All bets are off. I want to really like Indy's chances in this game. But either way, I think this is going to be a heck of a ball game. I think it'd be fun to watch. Two exceptional good programs, great coaches, a lot of good talent on that field. It's going to be a good one.
In the old days, Mecklenburg County used to play games from Warrington Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sometimes I wish we kind of go back to that so we see all these great games being played at the same time. Gary, your buddy Jupiter Wilson, 1-1, going to play East Mac. Real shot to go 2-1. East Mac has a real shot to get out the snide. What do you think here?
Well, I think it's probably more important for East Mac
Really?
to get this win. Yeah, because, even though Garinger has won a game, they still carry the previous reputation. And then Garinger, they're going to have to learn how to handle success. They're scoring points this year, which is, whether they lose or not. Last year, they couldn't even score.
That's right.
So they are making improvements, and the kids can see it. East Mac, on the other hand, they're off to a rough start, and this thing could, turn into a snowball going downhill if they don't make some improvements this week. So I think it's very important for East Mac to get this game.
I agree with that. I think Garinger might. I mean, we don't do like lines in high school, but Garinger might look at this as like, again, this is one of those checkmark games we can get this week, and that would be different. I don't know when the last time Garinger had a winning record, but that'd be pretty impressive for him to go and do that. Chris, I want to come to you for Huff at Highland Springs. These are two state powers going at it on the road. Huff's defense just looks phenomenal, 10 points in 2 weeks. And Highland Springs is off to a good start at 1-0.
Yeah, 10 points in 2 weeks against two really, really, really good football teams. So, that's impressive with what that defense is doing up there. Chachi's got something going there, and Coach Baker and all those guys at Huff. And I went to several of their signing days during the summer. It was a lot of their talent. I mean, good golly, they have got dogs for years. I mean, they must just have a dog pound up there. They are the Huskies, so it's appropriate. But I don't know. Huff is they're just one of the best looking teams I've seen here. They play clean football, mistake free football. They're just so sound. So they just got a lot going on. I got to admit, I don't know a whole lot about Highland Springs other than the fact that they're a traditional power year in and year out up there in the Virginia area. I don't know a whole lot about their players and their coaching situation. But I know one thing. I know this Huff team is going to go up there and probably take care of business and come back, and we'll be talking about them 3-0 because that just seems to be this just seems to be their year. I don't want to jump the gun because they haven't won it yet. But kind of like those teams that Coach Hales was on back in the day when TK was calling Butler puppy dogs. I think that we're finally starting to see Huff at that precipice of doing some really big things. And I think once they win one, they might win a couple.
Well, that man on our show, Mr. Griner, might have something to say about that. Hales, I wanted to ask you, Chris was saying I don't know much about Highland Springs. I mean, I'm sure that's the same for a coach as well. How do you prepare when you're going to play a team you're not familiar with? Like, you're going to play Irmo. We're familiar with Irmo, but we're not as familiar with teams from Virginia.
Yeah, so back during that COVID season, I think it was, we picked up a game like 11th hour, like Monday, like that Monday where we were playing Oceanside. We were playing Oceanside Academy. So and again, we didn't really get any film on them. Like we may have found something online, but at that point, it's a matter of like teaching your kids, hey, like if A, then B, like, we think we're going to get a 3-man front. When we have the ball, this is how we execute against a 3-man front. Like, but you can't really get into like scheming against different personnel and things like that. Like, so it's a good challenge for you as coaches. How do you adjust on the fly? Like, what kind of things can you pick up? What kind of things can see like early on in the game? And it's a much more of a challenging thing for coaches than it is for players. For players, they got to know their alignment. They got to get in a good stance. They got to know their assignment, and they got to play ball. But like us as coaches, we got to make sure that we have them in the right spots, like where we're putting them. So, yeah, I think it's a much bigger challenge, but I think it's a lot of fun too, because with all the information we have on all these teams, like a lot of our game planning is done pretty easily, I think. But when you get into these games, like now it's like, okay, let me see what I'm made out of a little bit here.
All right. And Gary, I always give you these holler type of games, but here's another one. West Charlotte fans at South Point. What do you think about this game?
I think it's a big time showcase. Kudos to Sam for setting up this schedule the way he did. I think you're going to see the benefits of it later in the year, probably in that matchup against Huff. But I think that this is a big time game, big time atmosphere. But West Charlotte won't be intimidated by it because they've already been in this atmosphere already. So I'm looking to see how does West Charlotte match up or use the things that Huff did successfully. How do they take that and do the same things against South Point? Or did they see some things that South Point did against Huff that will benefit them as well? So it's an interesting contest. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, West Charlotte's best player, the Duke recruit, still out with a hamstring, Chris. How tough is it to play all these big games without your best player?
Well, I think it's an opportunity. I mean, is it tough? Absolutely. And you never want to go into any kind of a fight without all your pieces to the puzzle. But with that being said, I think it gives Coach Griner an opportunity to build some depth, to get some key playing time and some crucial situations against a really good team. And I mentioned how good I think that Huff team is. Bobby Collins does a great job down there at South Point. That's a really good team as well. And it gives Sam a chance to get some guys that maybe are unproven in a position, an opportunity in live, under the light, important, meaningful game situation, some playing time. And you never know, you might find out that, you know, one of your players fits at a different piece because you had to move him by necessity. And, you know, that could be kind of one of those light bulb moments for later on in the season. So I do think it's an opportunity just to kind of gauge some players and some different situations. But either way, this is going to be a great game. I do like West Charlotte in this game, but you know, either way, it's going to be good high school football.
All right. Well, speaking of Sam Grind, I need one of you guys to go get Sam out of the back so we can do coach versus coach. So y'all get him and start coach versus coach when we get back.
Hi, I'm Scott Fowler, sports columnist at the Charlotte Observer. I have been here 31 years, but you know what I never have had before here? A newsletter. I've got one now. It's free. I'd love you to sign up for it and get my take. Every single time I have a column, you'll see it first. Panthers, Hornets, college sports, high school sports, whatever controversies going on. Sign up for my free newsletter and you will be able to get my column every single time earlier than anyone else.
All right, man, here we are. We're going to get in that big wide shot and do it. Hey, going into week 3 of the season. Season's moving right along. So let's do it. Let's lock them doors, man.
Welcome to another edition of Countdown.
All right, like I said, going into week number 3 of the 2025 high school football season. Here we got coach versus coach. I got my man Gary Richmond, Coach Brian Hells, and Sam Griner, and we're going to go right at it. Coach Griner, I'm assuming you want to keep deferring, right?
Yeah, we're going to keep deferring. As long as the weather's not bad, we're going to defer every time.
You know, last week I started with Gary. This week I'm going to start with Coach Hale. So let's do it. Coach versus coach. Charlotte and App State played their season opener on Friday, traditionally a high school night. Should colleges stop doing that? Coach Hales.
Yeah, 100%. They need to stay away from that. You know, I said, you know, I think like, you know, on our first show a couple weeks ago, I'm going to go ahead and establish myself as the get off my lawn guy. You know, I think the answer, and we all know this, we've been around long enough, the answer to every question is going to be money. So, you know, when you ask why these teams playing on Friday, it's because of greed. But I think what's going to end up eventually happening is like we're forgetting what grew these sports to begin with. And that was the consistency of high school on Friday night, NFL or college football on Saturday, and NFL on Sunday. You know, it's just the same as, you know, I expect an NFL game to watch me sleep on Thanksgiving Day. I expect an NBA game to watch me sleep on Thanksgiving Day. And I expect college football games to watch me fall asleep on New Year's Day. Like, but that's what made these things great is that consistency. And now I think moving them all around waters them down. But no, I hate that they played on Friday night in Charlotte.
Yeah, Coach Griner.
Yeah, definitely. Like just like what Hale said, I mean, Friday's built for Friday night football in a high school setting. And I think it hurt their probably attendance as well, too. I know that they were playing in Bank of America. Maybe that was the only time that they could actually fit it in that schedule. But let's try to build those things in for Saturdays. Just like Hale said, it's pretty simple. You're hurting high school gates and you're also hurting their gates, too. So I just didn't understand it.
Well, we all know what it came down to. It's TV dictates the schedule. It dictates the days that you play on. It dictates the time that you play. And so these networks don't have any consideration for high schools. Now, App and Charlotte, you would guess that they're dependent on high schools in North Carolina. They don't nationally recruit. So it's very important that they are able to get North Carolina kids to see their campus, to see their games. And that would have been an excellent opportunity for them to have played on Saturday, but we know that it was dictated by television. I don't blame the universities because, you know, they're trying to keep a budget, maintain a budget, and schools like App and Charlotte, they're not part of a conference that has a huge television contract. So they need the money, you know, more so than say the ACC schools or the SEC schools. It's just like Brian said, it's just everything should have its standard day. We've always had high school Friday, college Saturday, NFL Sunday and Monday. That's traditionally how football works. But now it's a free for all.
Yeah, and I just, just to jump back in real quick on what you said, Gary, like, yeah, boo-hoo, you guys are losing money. Like the colleges are losing money. Like, we need it too. Like, we need it more. We need people at games more than y'all do. And, like, because that's truly, like we've all said over and over again, like, high school football, that's what keeps the lights on for a lot of other athletic, teams in the schools that, for the colleges to take that away on a Friday night, I don't like it.
Yeah. I agree. Hey, maybe like a game here in Charlotte, if they're playing a game in Charlotte, that they should give 10% of that gate to all of the schools and spread it around just to make up. But I agree with all your points.
Yeah. Hey,
I got to throw it out there. Hey, question number 2. Grimsley and Mountain Creek are navigating tough schedules without their QB1s. How tough is it to adjust early in the season when your starting quarterback goes down? Coach Griner, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it just depends on how good of a backup you have, to be honest with you. And, I think Malley Creek, they got a stable of quarterbacks. Like a lot of people have a stable of running backs. They got a stable of quarterbacks and some guys that are very experienced with varsity games. Even more impressed with the young guy from Grimsley. That was pretty special, the way he did. He was up for Players of the Week as well this week. But that's pretty impressive as a freshman, like we said. Only been in high school roughly 5 days, and now you got to start versus a very good West Forsyth program. And you could tell once he got his feet wet in the game, he was able to do some big things. But, kudos to those coaching staff to protect the team. Probably not asking our quarterback to do too much, but just be able to handle the game. And their team is so well built, they're able to win those games still.
Hey, Gary.
Well, I think it depends on, do you have to change your style? If your starter is a drop back passer and you have a sophisticated pass offense, and then your backup is a dual threat or a running quarterback, it makes a difference in the team and how the coach calls plays. So I think the problem comes in is, can your backup play the same style? Not so much the same expertise, but the same style of play as the starter. If the starter's a dual threat and then the backup, he can't run at all, it makes the structure of the offense and the play caller have to change up at what they do best. So I think that's the key. Does the backup play the same style as the starter? If they both play the same way, then it's an easier transition.
Yeah, and I think too a lot of what Gary's saying. It's a matter of how quarterback dependent are you as a team. You look at some schools where every year they're coming out, they're on a triple option, and it doesn't matter if the quarterback's been there 4 years, 2 years, or 5 minutes. But we had this, had experienced this exact thing back in 2012 where we had Riley Ferguson, this is an Elite 11 All-American, returning All-State quarterback who's already won a state championship, and he broke his thumb right before the conference season began. So we didn't have probably one of, if not the best quarterback in North Carolina for the entire conference season. So, that year was an opportunity for Zach Rose to play a bunch of football. It's the kid who's going to end up, playing some receiver in that. But, he ended up starting every game for us, while Riley was out. But it gave him an opportunity. We also split that time with Anthony Ratliff Williams. So it was an opportunity for him to get some time too. Now, to be fair, the team was loaded. We had guys all over the place, guys that ended up in NFL camps. So we didn't have to do a lot of adjusting, necessarily, in terms of what we were doing on offense. Because, again, Zach was a senior kid who had been around our offense a bunch already anyway. And then with Anthony, we were getting ready to transition into a little bit different style of offense. So it's difficult. Yes, very much so. I don't want to deny that. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for you to kind of challenge yourself as coaches and see what kind of things you could come up with.
Yeah. Well, hey, last question here. I'm going to stay with you, Coach Hales. Are we ready for instant replay in high school football, say in regional or the state round games where there are multiple cameras already at the games?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we've got the ability to have the cameras there to get all the angles, and all we want to do is get it right. Of course, we don't want to spend 30 minutes reviewing the same thing, but if we get a chance to get in, get a quick look at it, and get the thing right, absolutely, I don't see why we wouldn't do that.
Gary,
I got mixed feelings about that one. I think if you're gonna go to a replay system, that it has to start at the beginning of the playoffs, and every game has to have access to it. And I just don't know if every game will have access to it. If you can say yes, every game will have access to replay, then sure. But if you're gonna have some schools, in the mountains, or smaller classifications, and they don't have access to it, I don't think it's fair that you say, oh, the 8A and 7A, because they're usually located in larger markets, they can use replay, but the schools, 1, 2, 3A and smaller venues, they don't have access to it, so they don't get to use it. I don't think that's fair. I think the playoff rules should be the same for all eight classes.
Yeah, I mean, both make great, strong points here. I mean, anytime we can get the play right, and we do have the capability, there's some amazing things out there now. Huddle has an ability to self-record and chop it up for you now. I think we can tack into some of that access as well, but have at every playoff game you have an end zone view and a wide view, and if you're able to determine something, that's pretty awesome. The key is, like, how are we going to get the cameras to the officials? Is there an iPad at the game that they can go to? If we can work out that technology, I think they would love it too, because it'd be amazing to make sure we get the play right. Now, it doesn't always happen. You might not need it at all, but maybe that 1 or 2 times you have some type of deal where you got to save a timeout. I might have a hard time doing that. But if you can do that to maybe use it for your replay, anytime we have the ability to do this, we need to try to get it done, but
and then
we might not be there yet.
Here's the unintended consequence that I worry about. What plays are going to be reviewable?
Mm-hmm.
The NFL has a standard of what plays can be reviewed. And
No catch. Same aspect.
Yeah, if you got the foot down in bounds.
Yeah, it's so much that could be reviewed. So I think you might want to give a coach one challenge, and only certain plays can be reviewable. Because if you say anything is reviewable, you'll be at the game all night.
No, definitely. No, there's definitely got to be limitations and parameters on that as far as what we're reviewing.
I want to see Coach Hales pull that red flag out of his sock and slam it down on the field. That would be good football. But, hey, man, I think that's a good coach versus coach. Let's send it back to Langston.
All right, guys, it's time to put the big man in his one shot and get Sam's final thoughts.
And final thoughts, just I really wish going to this gauntlet of 3 games is pretty difficult. Maybe you could bite off a little bit more than I could chew a little bit with the schedule, but now we got South Point on Friday. But I want to give a big shout out to the West Charlotte crowd. Just they traveled all the way to Monroe, and it's another long travel game to South Point. We need your support. You got an exciting time right now when you got Jamari Nichols, who could be up for Mr. Football this year. So it's pretty exciting. He's got 8 touchdowns, no interceptions, just playing out of his mind right now. So appreciate all the alumni. West Charlotte is nationwide, and we got to travel to South Carolina this week. So look forward to seeing you.
Man, if you keep talking about West Charlotte and your final thoughts, people are going to think we're biased.
Well, I'm going to do it right now. Just so after this week, I won't do it. Need to travel right now.
Well, before you run off, we talked about South Point's game earlier. We want to get your thoughts before you leave. Huff beat South Point 14-10. So if people are looking at a potential barometer between West Charlotte and Huff, is this it, or is it too early to tell?
Yeah, I mean, the matchups will be definitely different. You got South Point, who in the middle of the game went to their athlete as a quarterback. Now they've had a week. And he's the number 1 player in South Carolina, I believe. Now they have a time to adjust the package for him. They looked very efficient last week, looking at them on film versus Rock Hill versus a rival game. Yeah. And now they got us coming to their home. And, it's definitely as a barometer to see what's going on there. Everybody wants to talk about that game down the line if it happens. But exciting. We got to be able to go into South Point and win this game, and then let all the experts talk about it.
Who made that schedule? You played a state champion first week, nationally ranked. You played a state champion the second week. That the second longest winning streak in North Carolina. In the third week, you're going to play potentially the best team in South Carolina in 4A class. Who made that schedule, Sam?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm questioning that guy now. I'm questioning that guy, but it's exciting. We can get out of this one healthy. We're a little banged up right now, but our team's got a lot more depth than I've ever had before. Like I said, it's the best football team I've ever coached, and I'm excited to see what we can do getting out of this 3-game stretch.
Absolutely.
Maybe Sam's former AD, Coach Joyner, gave Sam a nice going away present.
Nah, he let me do my schedule, and so to be honest with you, shout out to South Point, but it was too good of a deal to turn down. We're on the road 3 games in a row, but they offered us $3,000 to go there first, and they still got to come to us next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we get the full gate next year, and then $3,000 this year. So it's an extra $3,000 we wouldn't get from going to another program. And see, a lot of people don't see that behind the scenes negotiation.
Yeah,
but I'm doing that for our overall school wealth and making sure that we are providing more for the other programs. And see, a lot of people don't see those things, but I'm willing to take that risk and go through the gauntlet to make sure we're helping out some of the other teams that might need some uniforms.
Because you got plenty of uniforms. That's for sure.
we got some uniforms.
Yeah, before we leave, I did want to ask you, a little birdie told me that if Huff and West Charlotte played, they could play at a certain large stadium in Uptown Charlotte if that happens to the playoffs. Is there any truth to that?
There's a lot of truth to that. Just a shout out to Riley and Kyle and the whole staff at the Panthers Bank of America. And they did a phenomenal job. They do. It's the best venue I've ever been to. I've been to some state championships, very fortunate for that. But and shout out to those colleges that help out. But there's nothing like Bank of America Stadium, the walking through the tunnel. They prepare you for like what songs do you want to come out with. It's the full deal. It's no bias to one team or the other. Everybody gets the same benefits. I think it's by far the best venue you can actually play in. And they did reach out to us if the timeline works out and we happen to be playing, week 3 or week 4 in the playoffs, and they don't have nothing on that Friday night, we can play in that stadium.
Now, Sam, do you think if that is the ultimate matchup and Bank of America is not available, you could go to Memorial Stadium? Or would you be willing to?
Personally, I would say no to that, even though I love that venue. Until they get rid of the wood chips, I'm just not a fan. It's more built for soccer, or it's just too slippery of a field, and I think it'd be a disadvantage to us. So if I had say so, I would say no. No disrespect, but if it was the rubber pellets, 100% love that venue. It's beautiful, overlooking the city, but just the wood pellets in the turf make it very slippery as a field for football, and I'm just not a fan of it.
Well, Bank of America.
How about UNCC?
Yeah, that was the next question.
I would entertain that. That's literally Huff's home field. Like practice there every year in the spring. So we would be the number 1 seeds, hopefully, and then we'd be going to their home field. I'd feel like I don't know. We're going to Bank of America, baby. I got unfinished business there. All
right. Well, listen, another great show on Talking Preps. Coach Hales was here with us earlier. He's the coach at 3-time state championship coach at Butler. There's Sam Griner, the 2-time state championship coach from West Charlotte. Gary Richmond, the longtime CMS coach, the substitute teacher, as we call him, and Chris Hughes, the number 1 voice high school football. Dale and Cam were with us this week. They'll be back next week. I'm Langston, and we are Talking Preps.